Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My mom passed away when I was only 12 years old. So it wasn't like I had no memories of her. I mean, with things being so bad, I can say I don't remember a lot of them, but one thing I remember is that I loved and cherished my mom very much. Unfortunately, though, even though I wished I could have spent one last time in her arms, talking to her about everything and having her become mad at me in the most loving way possible, one last time, but unfortunately, she didn't stay. She passed away a short while due to an accident, and honestly, after everything that unrevealed right after she just passed away, I'm sort of glad she wasn't alive to see her loving husband, the man that she called her high school sweetheart, the man she was so loyal to and probably trusted more than life itself, doing such shitty things. And that too, right after a couple of days of her passing away. My parents were together for about 15 years before my mom passed away. So you guys can only imagine the absolute shock, horror, disgust, and sorrow that everyone along with me felt that this man, who claimed to love and promised to stay with my mom forever, simply just pressed the reset button on his life and started fresh like anything. It made no sense. I still remember it was the third day after my mom's death. We hadn't even buried her yet, but my dad brought his new wife, Alexa, home that day, asking me to call her my mom and thinking that he had done such a great, brave duty by finding me a replacement mom. I was horrified because the wounds of losing my mom were still fresh, and the actions that my dad took, one after the other, were just salt pressed on my wounds. It was heartbreaking and devastating, and I should have prepared myself for more, but of course I didn't. I simply just wished it was all a terrible nightmare and tried to sleep it off, which obviously didn't work, and just made things worse because the moment reality hit me, the day everyone cut off my dad without a care in the world as to what happened to me, except for my maternal grandparents, God bless their hearts, who dragged my dad in the court for custody and lost. I was done. I lost all hope and faith because that wasn't all. The very next day, Alexa moved into our house, the house that was gifted to my mom and dad as a wedding gift by my grandparents, the same ones who my dad laughed at after losing. They lost custody battle, and if that wasn't bad enough, Alexa brought in a replacement son with her, James. I don't think I need to start this paragraph off from how my life just declined even more from there onwards. Alexa became the new wife, and James became the new son, and my dad enjoyed his new life, acting as if nothing ever happened, and Alexa and James both took full advantage of this and tormented me. I was never sure why Alexa didn't like me, but from what I can gather, I believe it's because I didn't accept her as my mom as easily as my dad accepted her as his new wife. Alexa was a narcissist, even a worse one than my dad. She wanted the world to revolve around her and had done an amazing job to gather people around her who made her feel like it did. Hell, sometimes I can even understand why James turned out the way he did. I mean, after all, he too, if not as severely as me, went through a lot of tormentation as I had to go through. The situation was unfortunate, but I was able to go through most of it. I mean, my life at that point was my dad ignoring my existence completely. Alexa simply just going off at me for not accepting her as my mom. James taking out all his anger on me and, in turn, getting punished if I ever tried to speak up for myself. It was a horrible life. But thankfully, all of this torment, pain, and suffering acted as sources of inspiration. And thankfully, along with the support of some amazing friends and my maternal grandparents, I was able to leave the house as soon as I got into college. Ever since then, I've never, ever looked back, and thankfully, I wasn't chased after either because I guess they knew it was bound to happen, or I guess they just didn't want me there. Could be either one, or could be both, but regardless, I used this newly found freedom to the best of my abilities and made a strong circle of friends. Met and fell in love with an amazing woman, passed with flying grades, and have settled down with a good paying job, never looking back to my past until this happened. I was cleaning out my old devices when I stumbled across an email that I used to use back when I was in high school. I dumped the email and a lot more of the social media that I used to use as soon as I left my house, but was shocked to see that I had only recently received not one, not two, but around a couple of hundred of emails, and all of those were from none other than Alexa. I was very hesitant, but I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I just deleted them. So, after taking a deep breath, I opened my emails one after the other, and it's like a mixture between venting and telling a story. Alexis started her emails off very sweetly, asking me how I am, talking about how she's been wondering if I've been safe, yada yada. And by the end of them off, she's talking about how screwed she is and how much in need she is of help. I can't help but laugh at all of these emails because does she know herself that she's asking for help from a very wrong person who cannot even bother to give a flying shit about her? But I guess after all, they're not crocodile tears, and she indeed is too helpless at this point. And I mean, if she's currently all alone with absolutely no one, then I wouldn't be surprised a bit because honestly, a narcissist like her deserves it. And it's better that she stays as far as she possibly can from society. Well, she's spamming me so much, and all of her emails end with her begging for me to help her. She's even provided her phone number below every email. Now, I wouldn't have even bat an eye at that because there's no way in the world I would help someone that actively went out of their way to make my life miserable. But after talking to a couple of my friends about this, as well as my partner, who are all trying to get me to reach back to her and get back in contact with her, I'm finding myself questioning my decision. So, Reddit, AITA, hi, everyone. A lot of you were asking what the emails talked about, and most of them were just her talking about her life problems, how miserable and lonely she has become, and how in desperate need of help she is in. She needs assistance financially, and she's trying to show it all as she wants to meet me and catch up with me. I mean, nope. If you want a handout, just make it clear to me instead of pretending to care about me or my existence. Regardless, though, a lot of you were also asking me if there were any mentions about my dad or James on those emails, and there was absolutely no mention of the two in them, except for one email where she just wrote that both James and my dad had left her. Well, I decided to look up James on Facebook, and it seems like he's really living a decent life. He has a wife, a daughter, and a nice house to himself, and also a seemingly active Facebook account. I'm considering shooting him a message, but feeling quite hesitant. Do you guys think it's worth it? I was too curious and decided to say it and just message James, and surprisingly, I received a response pretty quick. My initial message was just a simple hi and me asking him if we could talk, and surprisingly, he responded pretty quickly and we started talking about here and there, eventually getting to the point about Alexa. He told me that he would prefer talking about her in person and suggested that we would meet if I was interested. By that point, we had spoken for about a week, and my trust in him sort of built. I mean, I could tell he wasn't the same James as in high school, so I said yes, and we made plans to meet next week. I will update you all on what happens soon. Hi, everyone. I met up with James today, and oh boy, Alexa had truly messed up. He started off by profusely apologizing to me for all the times he had bullied me, and honestly, it felt nice to get some closure after so long. I didn't accept nor deny his apology, just validated it and let him speak. Well, he informed me that Alexa, much like me, tormented him as well, but just on a smaller scale. The person he was actually a victim to was my dad, who made sure to make James's life miserable by treating him horribly, and that too in ways no one could see. Things just got worse as I left because now he was the target to both Alexa and my dad, who soon left as he met another woman, and Alexa and James moved into a small, crappy apartment who James paid for together until James finished his community college and bolted out of the house, leaving Alexa with nothing. Now, I guess I can understand what she always meant by the fact that James had punished her. Well, honestly, I still believe that she brought it all upon herself. James then talked about here and there about life and stuff, and as it turns out, we have a lot in common. So we've hung out ever since we first met, and honestly, James is nothing as he previously was, and I'm sort of getting to the point that in my heart, I find myself forgiving him. Hopefully that day comes soon. Needless to say, I shut everyone up around me by letting them know how toxic and trashy Alexa and my dad both were. And thankfully, I haven't had to listen to anything from anyone anymore. Thank you all. NTA, you owe Alexa nothing. If anyone is so keen on helping her, they can go help her on their own. You do you, OP. NTA, but I would try to dig into what's truly going on. I mean, you may never know what's going on and who might need help when. I have been friends with James, not his real name, for about 7 years. He has been in a relationship for about 4 years, married too, with a girl that I'll call Emily, also not her real name. We never had the greatest relationship, but we tolerated each other, and James could make time for both of us. James recently passed away due to medical reasons, and I got a DM from Emily saying that she would rather I didn't show up to his funeral since she's not comfortable with me being there. I was surprised by what she had said because although we didn't get along that well, I never thought she would tell me not to attend my friend's funeral. I told her that James was a very close friend of mine and I want to attend his funeral, and she didn't like what I had to say. After arguing a bit, I just stopped responding. James's father is paying for, organizing everything, and has given me the date, and he thinks that I should come. Fast forward to the funeral. When I had arrived, there was about 30, 40 people, but I couldn't find Emily. I was looking for her so I could explicitly avoid her. Later that day, I received a message from one of Emily's friends saying that I should have never shown up and that it's my fault Emily left and that she's been bawling her eyes out for hours. Apparently, she saw me show up and left before I saw her. I was again shocked by what I had just read. Who would leave their significant other's funeral because someone that you didn't like showed up? I then started receiving other messages calling me an a-hole for showing up when I didn't have permission from Emily. I couldn't understand why it was such a big deal. I have already broken contact with Emily and most of her friends because I thought this was just crazy. Most people have said I'm NTA, but a lot of people said I should have just stayed home. I don't think I am, but what do you guys think? I had to clear something up. James and I have never had a romantic relationship, as we are both straight males. I feel as one of the reasons Emily doesn't like me is because James sets aside a lot of time for me. We used to game every other day for an hour or so, and we used to hang out weekends fairly often. I never thought of the possibility that she could be jealous or perhaps wanted more attention for herself. Also, a comment said that it's possible someone made a rumor about James and I, which is possible because when I first met her, it was okay, but it just went downhill from there. I should have mentioned all of that in the original post. NTA, his dad arranged and paid for the funeral, and he wanted you there. You were invited by the organizer. Emily is being 100% out of line and decided her dislike of you was more important than being at her own husband's funeral. Her grief doesn't trump yours as his friend. You were never romantically involved, and James almost certainly would have been heartbroken if he thought you wouldn't be at his own funeral. NTA, I would never tell a friend of my husband's that he isn't allowed to go to his funeral, even if I didn't get along with them, not unless they did some unspeakable thing. This was organized and paid for by your friend's father. Had he not wanted you there, then yeah, YTA, but he wanted you to be there. It's a shame she reacted that way. I bet the only naysayers to you are her friends. Context is needed. I, 16 male, have some pretty severe ADHD. I was seated in class directly next to another child, Sam, 18, male, who has severe autism. In my photography class, I have ADHD, so it's hard to focus. And with all the noises he makes, it's super distracting. I don't hold it against him at all. Another issue, most everything I do sets him off. I write too loud. He has a meltdown. I log into my computer. The noises trigger him, and he has a meltdown. I don't let him see my phone. He has a meltdown. I don't talk to him during class. Guess what? He has a meltdown. Like I said earlier, I don't hold it against him, but it's impossible to get any work done because every 3 seconds he's doing something distracting. I asked the teacher a couple of times to be moved, but she said that the special needs kids need to be seated away from the other students, as to not be a distraction. But I told her I don't make any noise. I'm not a bother. I just pop in my earphones. I'm right as rain. Not that Sam's a bother. We just don't work well next to each other. Unfortunately, she was not having it. Well, today was my breaking point when the color of my shirt set him off and he started flailing around and screaming and crying for me to take off my shirt, much to the surprise of the other kids. But my teacher didn't seem fazed. I told her that while I sympathized with Sam for his condition, I could not and would not sit beside him any longer, as he has been too much of a distraction towards me, and I was going to fail the class if I were forced to sit next to him. She said I was targeting Sam for his disability and bullying him. And you're lucky I don't send you to the principal's office for your segregated remarks about poor kids. And I just went back to my seat while she was still talking. I just sat down, got my phone, and pretended to ignore her yelling at me and Sam yelling at me. As you can guess, I got in trouble. I was sent to the office, and my reasoning is I was just doing what she's told me to do from the get go. Ignore. Now, I'm in trouble, and my parents are getting involved. I feel bad because I kind of know what sets him off, and I wanted a valid reason to get moved. But now it's turned into even bigger a thing than I meant it to. AITA? Your parents should get involved, and your teacher school is the a-hole for putting you two together because you're both special needs and deliberately ignoring the fact that you have different requirements, and this causes stress for both of you. It's certainly not bullying. NTA. NTA, and honestly, you should have gotten your parents involved once your needs in the class were disregarded. The teacher is putting you in a situation that makes it near impossible to do your work in the class. You told her this, and she totally disregarded it. Her reasoning is, well, all the special needs kids need to be together so they're not a distraction for the other kids. What? This is the same argument that is used when someone says a girl's distraction to the boys because her shoulders, collarbone, some other stupid thing is visible. No, you are not a prop or a curiosity or a distraction or anything else of the sort. You are a student. You are just as much a student as anyone else in the class. You need the class just as much as any other student. You have just as much of a right to be there. Your experience and knowledge you get there matters just as much as any other student in that class. This teacher is basically saying because you're different, you're less than the other students. She needs some more training. NTA, you're never TA for standing up and advocating for yourself. You are not bullying a disabled kid. You are advocating for yourself and for your right to attend your class without being targeted, harassed, and ostracized by the teacher. Also, it sounds like the teacher actually just wants you over with Sam so she doesn't have to deal with him. She's basically using you as a target for him and a caretaker for him. That is not what you're there for. And if teacher is unable to deal with having Sam in her class, then she needs to talk to the administration, not drop an easy target right next to him to keep him from bothering all the normal students. NTA. NTA. So she wants special kids in their own corner, but won't bother to work with the disabilities of those students? Sounds like a pretty poor teacher. Make sure you explain this to the principal and your parents. Having ADHD is super difficult in school. Your teacher doesn't want to work with that, so she basically created this situation, putting both you and this other kid in an uncomfortable situation.